Welcome back to episode 2 of Restoring the Stinson 1083. And this episode I'm going to be basically interviewing my dad about the Stinson 103. So let's start off.
Hello everybody.
Why did you choose the Stinson 108-3 specifically?
This is actually the second Stinson I've had. I had one of these airplanes years ago in the late 1990s. At the time, my very, very first airplane was a Cessna 140, and it only had 2 seats in it. And it was fun to fly, but I couldn't take more than one person with me. I had a growing family, and I needed more seats. And a good friend of mine knew someone who had a Stinson for sale, and a friend and I took it for a test flight, and we loved it, and we bought it. So that was my first Stinson. We owned that for about maybe 5 to 6 years, and I used to fly your 3 older brothers in the back seat, but they kept growing, and then one day they didn't fit anymore, so we had to sell it. So but I've always loved the Stinson, and it'll carry everything you can put into it, and it's very safe, and we had a lot of good times in it. So
Who sold this plane to you?
One of my best friends, other friends had this airplane before me, and he's the one that we bought it from, Mr. Ashford.
How long have you owned it, and what made you decide to keep it all these years?
This airplane, I had been out of flying for about 7 years, and my friend who helped me find the first one decided it was time for me to get back up and start enjoying aviation like he knew. He knew I missed it, and he started shopping for one of these Stinsons and found one, and we bought it in 2013.
What's it like to fly a Stinson 108-3 compared to other planes?
The Stinson-3 is a very gentle, comfortable airplane. It really doesn't have any bad habits. It's very docile to fly and predictable. So I'd say that's one of the things that I enjoy about it, is it's always a comfortable ride.
What's your favorite upgrade or modification you've made to it?
We did a lot of work to it when we were working on this plane, but it has all new avionics, or radios and navigation equipment, things like that, because it was built back in 1948. They didn't have digital anything back then, so the fact that it has upgraded avionics makes it a lot easier and safer to fly on long trips.
What makes the Dash 3 different from earlier Stinson models like the 108-1 or 108-2?
Yeah, the Stinson company made the 108, the 108-1, the Dash 2, and then the Dash 3. The Dash 3 was the one called the station wagon. It says flying station wagon there. This plane was built with a reinforced floor in the cabin, and it was designed to be able to carry a lot more weight. It has a stronger wing spar going through the front of the wing, and so it's the difference is it's designed to carry more stuff. It also, one of the unique features of the Dash 3 is it has a really big tail. It's way back there, but you can always spot a 3 by the large tail with the ribs on the tail.
Do you think Stinsons are underrated in aviation history?
There was a time when these airplanes were there were plenty on the market, and they weren't terribly expensive, to be honest. but they've become more popular in recent years, and their value's gone up because people are starting to realize just how dependable and reliable they are. They're easy to work on, so there's still a big fan club of Stinsons out there in the aviation world.
Have you ever had a memorable or dramatic flight, maybe in a storm or emergency?
Not in this airplane. I had one time I was with my flight instructor in Little Rock, and a storm was moving in, and it looked like literally a gray wall of rain moving towards us, between us and it was on the other side of the airport. And I remember my instructor said, "Let me fly for this part." And I was glad to let him have it, and he sort of put it in a rapid descent toward the airport. And when we got over it, he basically just spiraled down and landed in about 20 seconds. And I didn't know you could even do something that fast in an airplane, but we got down and got there before the storm hit.
What's the longest trip you've taken in the Stinson? Where did you go and why?
The longest trip I've gone in Stinson with this airplane is to Oshkosh, Wisconsin. And I've been going, there's a big air show up there every year. It's the biggest air show in the world every year in the last week of July. And I've been taking this Stinson up there every year since 2001. 2001. I'm sorry. I misspoke. 2021.
Do you think people today still appreciate old planes the way they should?
I think there's a big there's a lot of people who just like people who like old vintage cars. There's people who like vintage aircraft. The difference between cars and airplanes is airplanes really hang on to their value over time, if you take care of them, that is. And again, this airplane is over 70 years old, but it flies like it's brand new.
If someone was thinking about buying a vintage plane like this, what advice would you give them?
Take somebody who knows about that particular make and model with you when you're doing your first inspection of the aircraft, and make sure that, because they'll know what to look for in terms of problem areas. That's my best advice, to have somebody who's very familiar with that make and model, so they can look for all the little problems that over the years have come to be known for that particular aircraft.
What do you think this plane will be doing in 50 years?
Since so far all of my children are pilots, I hope that this airplane stays in the Thomas family for a long time, particularly since me and my friend rebuilt it and restored it. That's something we didn't talk about earlier, but when we bought the plane in 2013, we found out that it needed a lot of work, and we basically, over a 6-year period, took it completely apart down to nothing but the airframe, nothing but a steel cage, and then slowly put it back together over 6 years. And you even helped with some of that when you were about that big, but you were a great helper. And but the neat thing is after we got it all put together, and it first flew in 2019. 6 years later, it flew, and then the first time we took it to Oshkosh in 2021, it was awarded Outstanding Stinson at the show, and that was something we were very proud of.
Well, that's all I have for you tonight. So thank you for coming out here and showing us the plane.
Absolutely, thank you.
That's
Bye,
all,
everybody.
That's all what I have for y'all tonight. So be prepared for episode 3.